Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Tessy. Hello.
How are you and where are you?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm wonderful actually. I was in Liverpool yesterday, but I'm now back at home in Rugby. I've got a wailing cat next to me.
Oh,
Um,
love
so,
it.
so every so often you will hear these noises of attention, attention, and
Oh.
because he knows so much more than I do, who is important.
Well, it's amazing. If he ever wants to participate within the next 15 minutes, please
Well,
do.
he may well leap up again.
Very good. So, Tim, honestly, reading your biography is like what I have been speaking about in my TED talk, my TEDx talk.
Really?
But being a magician, you just you bring so much color to the world, so much entertainment as well, but love as well. And you are really also, if I may say, one smart cookie with your education. There's just so many things to you that when I was reading your bio, you should definitely write a book once about your life because it is just outstanding.
Thank you.
So today we will dive in a little bit into your life and into who is Tim Wilson. But before we do that, may I ask you, Tim, how do you get to where you are now? Who is Tim, and who inspired you?
Oh my goodness! I take inspiration all over the place. The word. Oh gosh, here we come. The word inspiration is fascinating. I mean, you know this because you're drenched in European language. But so inspiro to breathe in. So it's something we do naturally all the time. So all the time we are actually being inspired, but some of the time we think we're too grand and we don't notice it. So the important thing, I mean, I was just actually saying, cats seem to live permanently in the moment, and we are obsessed with what we've just done or what we're planning to do, and we sometimes forget about what we're doing now. And I can hardly remember what I said 5 minutes ago. I can hardly really prepare for what I'm going to do next. I do keep notes. I'm a dreadful note taker, and I'm a dreadful list planner. Um, but otherwise, I think I learned very early that the focus needs to be on now, and sort of maintaining eye contact with the person you're talking to, and all that sort of stuff. And I had I had some great teachers. I had some real horrors. And I started writing something about my childhood the other day, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is shocking. And my school was a focus of a slightly shocking expose. But again, the media is obsessed with various types of scandal, and they don't look at the simple sort of fundamental problem that this was a school which was dominated by beating children and bullying, and that um, finding a way to survive that gives you a sort of base. And I think from a very early age, I realized I was a maverick. Um, So I was determined. Whereas so many of my peers were determined to fit in, I was determined not to fit in. And I think I just got worse as time has gone by, which meant I've ploughed my own field. I've found my own thing, um, and that means I have to define my own space, um, and define the space of people sort of who are with me, who I love, and that's difficult. So every day is an interesting challenge. Does that answer at all?
Yes, no, for sure. It's so interesting. So,
Also, I feel it's important not to give up. So you get knocked back, and you think, well, I'm certainly not going to take that. I'm going to apply again. I'm going to do it again, and I would do it again and again and again. So a few years ago, I found myself in Greece, and I met my partner, and I discovered that he had been tortured and really badly abused. But we didn't have a common language, so it took a long time to work this out, and to work out the details. I
amazing.
knew something, um, and so I took a case through the European Court of Human Rights, and won. and it was a case really against a country I adore, as well. And I managed to square that circle, and I think that comes from having read theology in Oxford, because you take two completely irreconcilable positions and you think these live together. Then find a way find a way of joining, so the black and the white, and boom, there is a way of linking things which are not supposed to link. And so often, when you have an argument with somebody that you're close with, you forget that there's a reason why you were close with this person, and you forget all that background that you shared, and all you think about is the argument now. And you've got to think, well, actually, we've got so much. There's so much there already. So it's not about thinking in the past. It's about thinking what attracted me to this person in the first place. What brought us together, and then we hold that together with what an absolute beast this person is being, and we keep these two things together. So always that balance, and if you can do that, and I can't always, but good people do bad things. I don't think there's very many bad people around, but it's very easy to fall into a trap, and it's very easy to forget how wonderful people are. But the more eye contact you have, the more you remember it. You've got to keep remembering.
No.
Is that an explanation?
Yes, no, absolutely, for sure. And I promise you, I try to keep eye contact, but our cameras are next to each other, and I never really know where to look.
Oh, no. This sort of thing is so...
I'm doing my best just to say that. But no, this is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sorry what your partner needed to go through. Well done you for winning in court. I know how it feels like to be in court. And it's a dreadful moment where you really, you're kind of like fighting a giant. And,
you are, absolutely.
And you feel like, well, I remember how I felt. I felt very small, and I felt very, very scared, but empowered at the same time, because I knew what I was doing was the right thing.
And providing you keep all the documents, providing you collect all the information. Information really is power in a court.
Oh yes, for sure. You need to do your homework. I didn't.
I'll tell you the worst. What?
I did not sleep for a long time. There was a lot of
no.
Yeah.
This is a rookie mistake, but I remember the worst thing that happened to me is I had this huge pile of about this big of paperwork, and a girl came to see me, and she had an American boyfriend who worked in the embassy. And she came in and she said, "Oh, it's wonderful. Gosh, you would make such a good legal secretary. And so much of this is in Greek. How is your Greek? Do you want all this translating into English?" I said, "Well, I can sort of muddle through." And she said, "It'd be so much better in English. Are these the only copies you've got?" "Yes." She says, "Well, I could take these and I could get them all translated." "Could you?" "Yes." So she took the bundle. Of course, I never saw her again.
Oh no, that is terrible.
What was it? Right. Eventually, I came back to the UK, and our MP was David Cameron, and I wrote to him, and he clicked his fingers, and about 3 days later, we had an entire box with all the paperwork that I'd collected in the past, and I thought, okay, fine, but for that short period, it would have been about 2 years. You suddenly thought, oh, I was sort of scrabbling around to see if I'd made any copies of anything.
Yeah.
But people do what they have to do to succeed. And it's a game in a way.
Yeah.
And you have to play that game. Although it's got serious consequences, you have to play that game.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. After my court case, I got 2 job offers from my opposing barristers, which was flattering. Very wrong time, but flattering. And the clerk of the judge definitely said if I ever start a woman movement, that she will be the first one in line. So, I do understand, but I know the paperwork and everything. It's just stressful. But let's move over to the topic I really want to ask you about. There's 2 topics actually. So first topic is, it says you're colorful and a genial former contestant and winner of the popular vote on Channel 4's 2019 series, The Circle.
Ah,
So
yes.
you're talking as well, before you said, you talked about the first reality TV show and all of these other things
Yeah.
briefly. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I
Well,
think it's really interesting. Also, as a
I
man with your background of education, which we will
yes.
get into as an expert on religion. We will get into that. But how do you end up in a reality TV show? That's fascinating.
Well, I would never have thought about it. I'd never watched reality TV. I still haven't watched Big Brother. So my knowledge of the medium is very, very limited. And I got telephoned out of the blue by one of the producers from The Circle, and they asked me if I would consider doing it. And I was in Cambridge. It was raining. I don't know whether you know Cambridge very well, but when it's raining, it's miserable. You just want to die, really. And if somebody says something nice to you on the phone, you'll say yes. And I said yes. And then I went home and I watched the first series back to back. And I thought, well, it's essentially kind. And I could do this. I don't mind living on my own. I was a monk, so I understand all that sort of thing. And that's fine. Now I'm looking at the whole phenomenon. I've started right at the beginning, and I'm looking at a very early American television series called Survivor. And I think it's brutal. I think it's horrible. Bewitching, fascinating television. But having been in it all the time, there's a bit of me which is saying, well, the producers arranged that, and the producers did this, and this is a result of production. And how did they put people in this situation? I hope they had proper support afterwards, and I suspect they didn't. It's
So
taking.
So the show you're doing right now, if I understand, you kind of like dissect reality TV shows and talk to the actors in your show.
Yes, I suppose I'm doing that. And I'm talking to the actors. I'm talking to the fans. I'm talking to people who are connected with this world, and it's fascinating. I love these people. They're wonderful. People who are prepared to put themselves out in this sort of world. They have quite an open soul, and they're quite sensitive. And we're reading at the moment about the inquest into Caroline Flack's death, and I feel she was very much touched by this. Well, something happened in The Circle which fascinated me. They brought in a person called Richard Madeley, who's a wonderful television personality. He and his wife were the soul of breakfast television in Britain when it started. And Richard pretended to be Judy, and he pretended to be this really rather obnoxious girl. And she attacked my cat, and she was in fact attacking my older cat, not the cat I had with me. The older cat who I thought was dying, and I think she still is dying, but it's going to take a long time. She clings on. She's a determined lady.
Spider.
She really is. I'm surprised we can't hear her wailing at the moment, because she does wail. And I think she's taught the boy. But I've forgotten where I was going with that. But anyway,
We're talking about your show, so that you interview
yes,
the people who watch it, but also the the actors in the reality TV shows.
But I feel people. What I was saying was Richard Madeley came in, and I felt it was like somebody coming into my little Eden. I thought The Circle was about reciprocity and about friendship, and I think it still is, really. I think that's the heart of what the show was about. And it's now being played by international players, and it's got much more edge. It's all about strategy and about winning. I wasn't really interested in winning. I was just interested in preserving this circle. And I think there were 2 or 3 of us on the show who had the same view. And of course, we got on like a house on fire, really. I think there were people who were interested in winning at all odds, but we thought this reciprocity thing was important.
I need to watch it. I definitely.
No, it's worth dipping into occasionally. But I felt that Richard's nastiness in this show, which wasn't, I mean, he isn't a nasty person. He was encouraged to be nasty. I felt that infected the whole show, and it not only infected the people who he was around, the other contestants. It also infected the production. And the whole show moved at an angle at that point. Now, therefore, when you have someone like Caroline Flack, who is not a contestant, but she's constantly in this world, I think this is a world which is easily infected with evil.
Well, it's ruthless, isn't it?
It's a ruthless world, and I think if you're living in that world on a day-to-day basis,
people just take you as entertainment. They literally feed on top of you, right? Yeah. You are their entertainment, and you're there to kind of feed on distracting them from their own lives, right? Because that's really, and I find, yeah, it's sad.
I feel this sort of entertainment has the potential to be like a sort of gladiatorial spectacle, and I think people at home don't realize how damaging this can be. And I don't think we've seen this sort of thing for 2,000 years. So where our entertainment is predicated on somebody else's misery, and I think that's dangerous.
Yeah. No. Well, we have seen it. We have seen it with so many stars, you know, and celebrities.
Well, there are so many reality TV people are miserable, and there's so many suicides. And I think there's a sort of symbiotic relationship between the production, between theatrical agents and the media. And so when a story hits the media, you get three responses. This person can't deal with fame. They can't deal with the loss of fame. Or, well, you applied, so you should have known what you were in for. And to that, of course, I would say, well, I didn't apply. And I got rapped on the knuckles for saying that originally in an interview. And I thought, well, I've already said it now. You didn't tell me I shouldn't have said that. But, you know.
Gladiator's cage. That is definitely something I will be thinking about that, because I do think there's definitely something in that. And I have, you know, we all in the public eye, we do experience it to some extent.
Living in the public eye it brings with it a stress which is astonishing, and I've brushed it a few times. You know, I had a squabble with Mr. Farage, which was entertaining, but it's always terrifying, because people will only see one side of your character. They don't see you. They see what they want to see. They see an issue that they're going to agree with or not agree with. And you actually, you become a cipher. And if you don't play your part, the part that the public expect, you know, you're vilified.
You're done, exactly.
And that's terrifying.
Moving over to the last topic, because our time is running out, and I really want to ask you. And
you'll have to have me back.
Well, we will talk offline anyways. We have a whole lifetime to catch up on.
Thank you.
So something that really fascinates me about you as well is, because it completely clashes with what we just talked about, is that you are an expert in religion. So you're an expert in Catholic Judaism and Islam, right?
Yes, but I'm particularly interested in varieties of Christianity as well. So I particularly Catholicism and Orthodoxy. I'm particularly fascinated by that. Islam, I think we share a sort of failing knowledge of
I have been writing about
Arabic
law and how compatible it is with democracy, for sure. Yeah. I think I'm fascinated by the Middle East. That's why I studied Arabic as well. Yeah. And I think there's a really rich culture. But as we talked about the media, they, you know, as you said, a human being does not get born evil, you know? No. And I think, you know, the media also, despite there is bad people around the world, right? In all religions, let's put it like that. The Catholics have done horrific things too. And it's just, you know, now with the media, you know, we tend always to kind of like put the finger to
well, look, one of the big problems with the religion and the media is the media wants a story for today, and it wants a soundbite. Well, religion has been here for millennia in different forms, and religion takes a much broader, longer view. religion can't think in sound bites. It just is not possible. And you know, you only have to look at the way the papacy moves. It crawls, um, and very, very, very slowly. Things do not change fast in religion, and we're forcing a pace on our religious institutions which is unnatural, and that then means, as a rule, they make sort of knee-jerk reactions, and they're wrong. Um,
Tell me about it, because we always talk about Islam, right? But I want to talk to you
yeah.
about Christianity, because we
Oh,
have briefly, because we have seen a lot of scandals, right?
mhm.
Pedophilia, money laundering, all of
Yeah.
these different things of Catholic priests,
Yeah.
and we continue seeing it, right?
Yeah.
I myself, when I did my Firmung, it's called a confirmation. I was
Yes.
thrown out of confirmation by a priest because I didn't agree with him, because
Oh my goodness.
he had a mistress and she became pregnant eventually. And then yeah, he was just not a good person, and so he threw me out of my confirmation. I did do it eventually, my confirmation, because I am Catholic, but it's just there's so much lies in the Catholic Church. There's so much paid
Well, you've got
by
to,
people to keep,
yeah.
you know, to keep things quiet. So where do you see the role of the Catholic Church today?
Well, first of all, I'm a great believer in Graham Greene and the whiskey priest. So even with these priests who are awful, and so many of them are detestable, you know, power has gone to their heads, or not always upwards. Sometimes it goes downwards, and they don't really know how to behave. But it doesn't mean that they cannot still be a sort of conduit for the spirit and for goodness. And goodness comes out of
I
all manner of things.
agree. I agree. I do think, I don't know about your opinion, but I do think that also Catholic priests in the Roman Catholic Church should be allowed to marry.
Oh God, yes,
I really think
yes.
that is such a mistake that they can't, because
It
that
causes
brings
problems.
trouble.
Yeah, you know, I was brought up in a school which hit the headlines for all of this sort of nonsense. And the more I look back over my childhood, the more I realise, you know, oh my God, there were some very dodgy things going on, and I just wasn't really aware at the time. Um,
Well, as a
but
child, that is not really something you're looking out for. And you do
no,
believe that my children are very, very religious. You know, I'm religious. I go to mass with them and we pray. But my children, they pray every day. So they're very religious. And I think when you as a child are in a Catholic school and there is monks left in school or a priest, you put your faith in that person, that that person does the right thing. And if you're done being abused by that person, you really do not understand, is
I've
it right
seen.
or wrong,
Yeah,
right? Because that person is kind of like your spiritual leader. So you don't always question it.
absolutely.
Exactly.
No,
That's a danger within that, for
I
sure.
mean, I think the worst thing in my schooling was the violence done by the clerics on the children, and I have school friends who, you know, walked out of the church and have never gone back because of this, and this is sort of foolish, um, but um, but I also think there's a much bigger issue, uh, and and that is that we need to reach out to other denominations and other faiths and recognize that there are things that we hold in common.
Yes,
Um, and,
beautiful and
uh,
so true.
and instead, what tends to happen is when we get together, we tend to emphasize the things that divide us and try and sort of work out phrasing as if it's a legal document to try and work out, well, we can both agree on this. Actually, we should be starting from the other end. We should be saying these are the points of contact, um, and and then go on from there, and probably not try and diminish the differences, because the differences prove so
The,
strong, and
the differences are
the
smaller
differences are
than
fun.
what unites us, exactly, right?
Yeah, we like the differences, and the differences often are determined as much by culture as by history. Um, and I'm somebody who, you know, I've got about four religions in my own family, and part of those are cultural.
Amazing.
You know, four completely conflicting religions, by the way. So utterly cultural.
Your power mix. I told you.
Yeah. And you can't get round that. But I think there's some lovely things that happen. For example, in Britain, and so when we bring other faiths into Westminster Abbey, often for the Queen, and you think, well, oh, these
Two
faiths,
for National Day. We have started
yeah,
two that we
they,
invited other faith leaders. And I really, when I was still part of the royal family, well,
yeah.
I still am, I am the mom of two beautiful princes, but when I was still married into it, I thought when they started that, I thought it was the most beautiful thing. Where
It's just
we
wonderful to
celebrate
see that,
together.
because
Exactly.
suddenly we see people, even in a limited way, they're using these different faiths in unity. Um, and so at the moment we've got this thing where Hagia Sophia has turned into a mosque, and I think, well, actually that's a positive thing. Suddenly it's not a museum. It's being used for something that it was intended for. And I know I have Greek friends who are horrified, but I've also got Greek friends who have turned around and said, well, at least there aren't people going into this holy place wearing scanty clothes and pretending that it's secular. It was never intended as a secular place. So if it's being used for religion in whatever form, that's a stage forward. I would like to see a place like Hagia Sophia used for religious meetings, and I would like to see, Catholic mass there, and an Orthodox liturgy there, even if only so once a year or something. In fact, in many cases, I think museums would be better off if they actually had some sort of activity in them. It just, sometimes I find a museum a little bit dull, walking around the place, one beautiful artwork after another, and you think, well, what were they for? Wouldn't it be wonderful to go into a into an Egyptian temple and sort of smell it and see it as it was? That would be great. But we can't recreate that sort of thing. That would be absurd. That would be Disneyland. But when we've got great religious works of art, we should see them in context.
In action, right?
Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling, it doesn't really work any better than when the cardinals are gathered trying to elect another pope. That is the point at which it suddenly comes into its own, isn't it? Really.
I have, yeah. Before we need to sadly finish now.
I'm sorry.
I had that experience as well when I did my pilgrimage in Israel and Palestine.
Did you?
For Easter. It was the most beautiful thing. I loved it. I really, really loved it, and it changed my perception on religion forever. It was just beautiful. But there was also some crazy experiences where the religions clash, like on the wall, for example.
Yeah.
But one thing, for example, where the cross was,
yes,
the cross of Jesus Christ, is in an Orthodox church.
Yes.
So we spent the night there in an Orthodox church, praying to a Catholic, to also Orthodox, of course, but also for the Catholics, we were also allowed to be there and pray our religion there. And I thought that was really beautiful. So I think, if everyone is a little bit more inclusive, and we do look, as you said before,
100%.
more towards what unites us than what divides us, and that in all domains, not just religion, but I mean also in everyday life, in professional lives, in all domains, then the world would definitely be a better place.
Yes.
So my dear Tim, before I
Thank
let you go, is there one inspirational quote or a book that you have read that you would like to share with us before I stop this recording?
Well, there's not a book, because I think the book is really rather second rate, though the Russians like it. But it's a film, and it's the original film, the 1964 film of Mary Poppins. And I think almost every moment of that is inspirational. And if one can approach life with the vigor, with the smile, and with the greatest of respect, with the serenity, and that is built into so much sort of royal life, and it's built into public life as well. That is what we aspire to. The serenity of Julie Andrews, I think, in Mary Poppins. I think it utterly inspirational.
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight, so I'm gonna
I hope
rewatch
so.
that, because I know the version. I'm gonna rewatch.
Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? We'll rewatch it and then let me know what your best bit is.
I sent you a screenshot on WhatsApp.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to that enormously.
Well, dear Tim, thank you so much for your time. This was just brilliant, and I could talk with you forever. I will
Oh,
stop recording now, and we can keep talking a little bit offline.
absolutely.
Thank
And we must do it
you.
again. So
Stay
thank you.
safe and healthy.
And you.
Thank you.